Hello and welcome to Movie of the Year, the only podcast with the science and the screaming to determine the best movie for any given year. This season, we are covering 1973, and we are just absolutely making our way through this kind of underwhelming year of cinema history. But we are here to talk about a biggie today, right around Halloween. It is The Exorcist. Before we get going, I'm your host, Greg. Hi. How you doing? I want to introduce my two guests, my two competitors, because that's right, this show is not just three friends having fun, because that would stink. It is a game show. I have two different competitors, including last week's victor, Ryan. Ryan, why did you go by Victor last week?
Because I think it's a name that's sexy as hell. Also,
Okay.
If I want to throw on some makeup, Victoria. Victor/Victoria, anytime I want.
Nice. Very nice. Classic. A classic movie of the year movie.
I'm
Victor,
obviously
Victoria.
I'm gonna do it right, like a lot of Sonny and Cher dress up people, where I'm gonna do half and half, and then profile one part of the song, spin around real quick, and then do my other profile with the other part of the song.
I love it. Can't be beat. Cannot be beat, which is going to be very awkward for your competitor, Mike. Mike, you tried so hard not to be on this show, but ultimately we pinned you down and made you be on it. How do you feel about your compulsory attendance here?
The power of Christ compelled me to be here today.
Hey-o.
And we will see how I do and how that does. Being so prepared, I thought all week about this movie. I was definitely ready this whole time.
This movie loomed large in this season. It's a big 73 movie. When we were talking about doing the season, I knew that it was eventually going to come to this. We were going to have to do a show with it. I have very little personal history with this movie besides actively avoiding seeing it. Ryan, starting with you, what is your personal history with The Exorcist?
I mean, there's I don't know if there's any part of any set piece in this movie that we haven't seen a billion times just because of pop culture osmosis and parodies. The rest of the movie I have seen a lot of times. Like every time I watch this movie, I realize that I have seen this way more than I thought, and yet there's still surprises. This was a movie that I saw far too early. Just wanted to get a jump on it as a little kid.
Let's start those nightmares now, buddy.
Yeah, regretted that a lot. Horrified. Like, I was not a kid who was scared by the more goofy movies that came out when I was a kid, like a Goofy movie or an extremely goofy movie.
Yes.
Or the Nightmare on Elm Streets, the Friday the 13th, the Child's Plays. Like, those are funnier than scary. This movie made me shit out of my penis and piss out of my asshole.
Because you were just doing what you saw on screen.
Yeah, I was just mimicking my role models, the Pazuzu Reagan. It still does that, and we will get into why. It's not for the same reasons that it did it to me when I was 10, but this movie is still, I think, one of, if not the scariest movie that Hollywood has ever made.
Mike, what is your personal history with The Exorcist? The movie, not the
guy?
Yeah.
I saw this movie in theaters, not because I'm 50 years old, or even older, I guess, because I wasn't 0 when I saw it. They re-released it when I think I was in like 6th or 7th grade, like remastered, recut, and me and a friend went and saw it, and then we refused to go to bed the rest of the night. I remember being terrified, but then watching it now as an adult, I was just like, I know I saw this. I really don't remember a lot of this. There's just like cool character drama that I did not remember at all from when I was a kid. And then the minute Max Van Sydow just stands in front of the house, I went, no, I've seen this fucking movie now.
On a poster. Mike, usually it takes 3 kids in a trench coat to buy a ticket to this movie. Was there a third kid you're leaving out, or were you two very tall?
We killed that kid.
Oh,
wow.
He said he was pro-Reagan, and he did not mean the character, Linda Blair. He meant the president, and so we went, well, we're going to beat your conservative ass.
Well, there's no excuse for that. How did you think, watching it now, how did you think it holds up, Mike?
Again, all the character drama, loved. I think this is an interesting movie about losing your faith and finding your faith, and there's a side movie about what it's like to be a single mom who's a working actress and your husband's a piece of shit. Scary? No, not in the slightest. Not in any way, shape, or form. I've been wondering this whole time if if you are not religious, can these kinds of movies be scary? There's a lot of these movies, so I don't want to put it all on the one, but this one at least is no. It was a good old time at the movies, but it was not scary.
Well, Ryan, let me interrupt you there. Let's put a pin in that, and we will take what Pazuzu calls the quickest of breaks. And when we come back, we'll talk about whether or not this movie has the thrills, the chills, and we know it has at least a couple of spills that still tickle and titillate our spines. The Exorcist is our biggest 1973 movie. It was the most popular then, it's the most popular now, it made the most money, got hella noms, and has a lasting cultural impact that is as big, if not bigger, than any other movie we've covered on this show, let alone in the sleepy little year 1973 turned out to be. It's a fun little romp about growing up. Our bodies change, and we become hosts to new desires we never knew we had before. In the end, those around us feel like they hardly know us anymore, and we may have killed a director, one of the biggest crimes of 1973. A demon from Iraq possesses a little girl and tortures her in a race against the medical establishment and Catholic Church to see who can mess her up the most. A tortured and conflicted priest is finally able to cast the demon out / accept the demon into his own soul and then save the day with a little autodefenestration. 50 years after its release, everyone knows every scary set piece of The Exorcist through watching the movie or countless references and clip shows. So how does the movie remain widely considered the scariest movie of all time? Or is this maybe not actually a very scary movie? Question mark. Mike, you were just saying this. Do you think this movie is? Do you defend what you said just moments ago that this movie
completely
is
flip flopped? No, yeah, it's. I don't know if because it's been parodied to death, shown to death, clips showed to death. Other movies have come out that are scarier. I'm a big boy who wears big boy pants, so movies can't scare me anymore. Not true, because I watched Crawl last night. Crawl's terrifying, you guys. I don't know if old movies are scary. And, like, I love The Shining, and I do know images of it scared me as a kid, but, like, I think there's, like, tension and pacing that I might just be too MTV generation. My brain is broken, and slower, methodical horror just can't get me. I don't know. It just didn't do it for me.
Ryan, this movie, scary, yes or no?
Yes.
Why?
Okay. I read at some point a long time ago, I heard somebody say that there's like evil on the celluloid, that there's just something fucked up about this movie, like in its core. And I don't think that seeing Reagan rise above the bed gets to me anymore. And maybe that part never did. I don't think that her masturbating with the crucifix, although sexy as fuck, is like that is technically scary.
Yeah.
I think
we're not here to kink shame. Do what you're gonna do, ladies.
That didn't even read as masturbation to me. She was attacking that thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's stabbing. I don't know if that counts as
you
like.
You guys remember being 12 and you're horny, you just attack it. You don't know what you're doing.
You know what it is? You know how when you rent a car, you just sort of flog it? That's what Pazuzu was doing. You know, that body's a rental for the old Pazuz.
Sorry, Ryan, you were saying scary.
I mean, I think that we have to go into what scary means, and I think that there's not a lot of jump scares, which is the thing that we complain about all the time anyway. That like if a movie goes for jump scares, then we say, "Oh, that's not scary." Even if we jumped, that's weak. Like that bothers us. But I think that if it seeps into your brain and it makes you, sort of creeped out during it and after it, that's what we're looking for. This movie, I think, is so creepy from start to finish around the set pieces. But just watching the people talk, watching the people mentally break down throughout the course of it, that is so freaky. This movie is essentially start to finish in very normal circumstances, and this is what I think the director did such a good job of doing. In very normal circumstances, very grounded ways, strangers in strange lands, right? Nobody is where they're supposed to be, but it's not somebody is on Mars, right? Or somebody is all of a sudden underwater. They're just in they're in a different city, or they're in
like an actress in Washington,
right? Exactly. But like it's awkward for them. You know, and they don't.
There's no security. There's no comforts of home.
And then it ramps up. All of a sudden, I'm a priest in a subway, and I'm just slightly awkward. I'm slightly like I don't know exactly what I'm doing, and yeah, the comforts are gone. And once those comforts are taken away, you start to get more and more and more on edge. And the way that the movie slowly turns up the dial of discomfort is what makes it so scary. This guy made a drama with pea soup scenes every once in a while, and that is what makes it scary.
See, I feared this movie my entire life. A big part of it was I was raised Catholic, and so I was like, nah, I don't feel like seeing a movie about demons and the devil because that just seems too scary. And I have to admit, like, ducking it and trying not to watch it. And when we were talking about doing this season, I had to like confront okay, you're definitely going to have to see this. And I was trying to, I think, keep it at arm's length a little bit, and maybe because I had seen so many of the set pieces before. But here's the ultimate test for me about whether or not something is scary. It's not when I'm watching it if I'm scared, although that's a good indication. It's like when I'm going to bed later that night, is it in me? And am I afraid because of that? And I slept pretty soundly the night after I watched this. I didn't watch it like in the dark. I didn't watch it all alone. I didn't like try to make it spooky. But I think there are several weird choices. And I'll tell you the number one weirdest choice that kept this thing from being really scary for me is I would never in a million years have Pazuzu show up on screen as much as it does. I felt like there was a couple times where there was just a flash of the old Pazoos, and it was very scary because it was like, did I just see the Pazoos? But when it's like 2 seconds and I'm just looking at this person's face covered in makeup and they're like, bleh, that was a bad choice for me. I don't think that really did it. In the book, it's like, is this girl possessed? Because there's weird things happening, but there's no confirmation in the book.
Well, it's weird in the book when you flip the page and that face is just right there.
Yeah. And so I think it would have been scarier not to like see that
Jaws
face.
This shit.
Well,
maybe just the flash that goes on like the priest's face, or maybe the flash that's on Linda Blair's face for a second. But that's it.
And everyone knows, Mike, that the Pazuzu broke down. They were going to use it way, way more, but they had to cut it back. The version that Mike saw first, I believe I read, the one that he saw in theaters, they added a ton of those faces because it was so scary in the original. They were like, well, if it's so scary in the original, fucking double them up, baby.
Yeah, in that version, there's a scene of her, like, she leaves the room and she's, like, crab walking down the stairs, and I remember that scaring me back then. And now it just scares me because my back is hurt, and I'm like, oh, that poor kid.
I think there's like a deeper horror of like little girl is in pain and we don't know what to do for her, but that's not like scary.
Burstyn? Is it
it's
Ellen
Burstyn?
Burstyn. Ellen Burstyn into the room. She sells it, and anytime it's her trying to talk to, like, Reagan is not in the room, and Ellen is talking to doctors or any person of authority and try to explain, that I think is terrifying. That, like, a parent's fear, nobody trusts me, and then she doesn't say things like, no, I know you're like, it could be psychological, but little bitch's head did spin around once before the priest see that later, so maybe, like, she could have shared those moments.
I do like, honestly, that was one of the things that creeped me out the most, was how the movie shows you people for sure see that something supernatural is going on, but because if that happens to us, we would kind of like erase it. People do that, and so they're like, maybe the bed was just rocking. No, come on, dude, you saw that it was up to like waist level.
Do you know what did scare me? And I think so many horror movies are like people vomited and they had to be dragged out because the train seemed so real coming at the screen. This one is
that train fucking vomited.
The train vomited. Your train mother
everywhere.
sucks train dicks in hell. It's like the catheter in her neck thing and just spewing
That's what
blood.
made most people pass out.
And then I looked into it, and it was that. It was like, that makes sense. Also, is this movie bullshit? And looked, it was like, no, that's how that surgery works. They have to insert the catheter to get to the brain through the neck and then inject the ink for all that. But, like, they didn't explain that, so I was like, stupid movie bullshit until I looked it up.
One of, like, aside from being scary, I thought the whole medical establishment versus the church thing was pretty interesting. Do you think that it's not scary anymore because pop culture has leached everything out of it because we've seen. I mean, I knew the upside down walking down the stairs thing, even though that wasn't in the original cut. I knew the head turned around thing. I knew how gnarly she was going to look.
I think that like it's sort of our job, and it's a very hard job. Some say impossible, right? To like you can only be who you are and watch it when you do to judge these movies. But I think that we're sort of responsible to like place ourselves in certain positions and say like I can see what it would be like if at all possible to sort of say 1973 and like take on this impossible job of saying like back then before countless episodes of The Simpsons and Airplane and epic movie X movies that have come out since then, what this would have been like. But again, still like I just think that there's so much scary around it.
But Jaws had all that, and then the rewatch still hits, I think. And there's a level of like tension pulling and creating Spielberg does in Jaws that I don't know if Friedkin does here.
You know, I think in a big part, he is dedicated to making like having the movie part really be what is important to him, and less the horror part.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like the movie spends a lot of time trying to digest a lot of big issues. And in fact, the next thing I'm going to want to talk about is, does it try to talk about too much stuff? But those parts of the movie seemed stronger to me than the horror elements, to be honest.
And yeah, I think it's a scary movie, and I'm not arguing with that. I think that William Friedkin, who always feels like there's another word coming, like William
Friedkin
Jones,
weekend.
has on the record in countless interviews saying, I didn't make a horror movie.
Right.
Which, I mean, he's the kind of guy who says bullshit like that, you know? But I really feel his focus on the scenes that aren't set pieces, and I feel like he is just doing sort of not half-assed John Carpenter, but like it's not where his interest lies.
Right.
It's just not.
Then why make this movie? That's so great. Sorry.
Well, I think we'll have a chance to talk about that on the other side of not just this break, but this demon draft. Demon armies. Sure, we'd all love to have one. It would solve so many problems. But how, in this day and age, would you even put one together? Well, good news, guys. I've been reading the Necronomicon, and it tells you how to do it. So now we can summon any of the demons, and devils, provided they are from the pop culture landscape.
Is that one of those books that just like by reading it, you put yourself and all of us in danger?
Oh yeah. Anytime someone has read that book, they're like, man, I wish I hadn't read that.
If you hear a recording of somebody reading that book, you're fucked.
Yes.
If you watch a silent video of someone reading it, you're fucked.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, dude.
You might be a redneck.
You heard about
Honestly,
your cousin's best friend from 2 towns over? His girlfriend, she read it. Now you're fucked because you heard that story.
this is the fentanyl of books, basically. If you are even in an adjoining room, you will just pass out.
If you're a cop.
So what we are going to do, we're going to start with Mike, and then Ryan, and then Greg. We're going to go through. We're going to have 4 total rounds. 2 now, 2 in the future. And we are trying to put together an infernal army of pop culture devils and demons, and then we're going to have them square off, and we're going to see who we think can take it. Which of the 3 demonic armies has what it takes to take it all down? Mike, you got the first pick. Who are you going with?
And for first pick, there's 2 I have holding in my hands that I wish was on fire. And it's like, who do I want to piss off? And right now, true to myself, true to my history, and because I play things poorly, piss off the host, I'm going to take Darkness.
Jesus
Tim Curry from Legend.
Christ. Mike almost wasn't on this show. And so I was like, the same way I felt when my wife and I go to an Indian restaurant, which is all this curry is for me. But the second I heard you were going to be on the show, I was like, crap. And then you got the first pick. And what can I say except pretty good pick, man. Mike, tell the people, because not everybody has seen Ridley Scott's Legends, Tim Curry's The Darkness.
All those lucky people?
What are we working with here when we talk about The Darkness?
It is your feelings about the movies aside, because you're wrong. It's an amazing movie.
Movie.
His all prosthetics, all legit CGI. There is weight to this devil.
Yes.
And his horn wingspan is like 5 feet across.
Yes.
Giant, massive. Your chiseled devil face, chin. This sexy 6-pack. Oh, he's got those D'Angelos, those satanic D'Angelos.
He makes Lily dress evil.
Yeah,
but it's kind of interesting if you're a young man watching the movie.
Oh, should I be into evil?
Wait, she looks different. Am I evil?
He has that deep, scary Tim Curry voice.
Yes, but still the Tim Curry charm, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Close watchers of pop culture after 1986 or 7 will notice that Tim Curry could not move his head or neck to the left or right in any role after this movie.
Him chasing Kevin McAllister in Home Alone 2 is very Christian Bale's Batman. Just full body turn.
But those horns, I mean, when we're talking demonic armies, we're talking about horns, and wow, he's got quite the set on him.
Now, I'm sorry to be a bad friend, but I thought this was an all Mike all the time pick. I did not know that Greg was into this.
Oh, I am pretty sure Mike and I have on the show. Like, I almost watched all of Legend just watching clips. I watched all the Tim Curry parts of Legend to prepare for this show.
Huh. And Mike, what does he do?
What do you mean, what does he do?
Like, you picked him first for your battle. Like, does
he kills a fucking unicorn. How about that?
He's my leader. Yeah, he's the general of the demon army for sure.
And he makes all your other people in your army dress evil?
He makes them dress evil, if you know what I'm saying. He sends people out to scurry into the good lands and kills innocent things like unicorns. Because I think that's how you live forever in some certain mythologies.
He's trying to kill the light.
Yeah.
Because he is the darkness. Yeah. The only downside is his weakness is like sunlight will kill him vampire style. He's definitely riding that line between demon and vampire, where it's like one kind of bleeds into the other, and he is kind of like a vampiric demon guy.
Aren't we all?
Yeah.
Is it munching down on unicorn horns? Is that what
munching
keeps you alive?
down on unicorn horns?
I think it's their blood, and then the horn is just like a trophy.
Is that
or maybe
the
you
line?
grind off a little bit of that.
Snort that shit right now.
Yeah, dude. I'm just gonna do a gummer. You guys come on.
You just got 2 more hours of immortality.
Was that the line from that John Mellencamp song, "Slipping Down on Unicorn Horns" outside
Yeah,
the Tasty Freeze?
Exactly.
Ryan, Charlie Murphy has the darkness from Legend has already been taken. What are you doing with with the second pick?
I am going to. I've lost this round because Greg is the host and loves Tim Curry from Legend. But I am going to,
and from the Command and Conquer series,
of course, along with Carrie Werber. We all love her, right?
Oh yeah.
I'm on a wiki right now, and I'm going to quote it. He doesn't have a tragic backstory or a motive for his actions. He's evil just for the fun of it. However, most material outside of Fantasia depicts him as a ruthless monster feared by all who encounter him. I'm taking Chernobog.
That's a good pick. That was the other one when I said, who do I want to hurt tonight? And I decided to hurt Greg and not
Chernobog.
Yeah.
Wait, am I a Chernobog guy?
Everybody knows you're a Chernobog guy.
Say more. Where is he from again?
He's from Fantasia. Boom, 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 boom. That's
He's
his
the
theme
giant
song.
guy doing the arms.
Okay.
I'll let Ryan take this. Why am I trying to help with my body movements?
Yeah, he's just to me he has the perfect demon look, right? Horns that come out of his head, big wings, and just pure fucking evil. And from this wiki, for the hell of it.
I love that. I love the idea of like, I'm just a baddie. I don't have any reason for wanting to be bad. I just enjoy. Yeah, dude. Very cool. Great aesthetically. Like 2 strong aesthetic picks for you two guys. I like that.
Also, this is not a Beetlejuice situation, but just say his name.
Chernobog.
It's just fun to say.
Chernobog.
Kind of, and also, I feel like the cartoon Gargoyles, taking a strong note from this.
Yes.
We wouldn't even have the show Gargoyles.
And
Did
the
we
show
talk about
Chernobyl.
Yes. Did we talk about what makes a demon?
No.
Dark Ritual?
No,
Is it-
like defining.
Oh.
Not how do we make one right now, Greg.
Okay, what makes a demon, Ryan?
Oh, I don't know. Because I know.
I think if you got horns and you've got ill intent and you come from hell or Hades, then I think there's an argument to be made for some or the others. But like, if you got horns, wings, and you're demonic, you're a demon.
But there's no anti-hero demon, right? Like you got to be fucking evil for the fun. Mike has an argument.
Well, I don't know. There is one. I guess there's one guy I'm thinking of who. In fact, let's move on to my pick.
Super duper Lucifer. Guy?
He was supposed to be the ultimate baddie. He was supposed to bring about Ragnarok, but he's like, you know what? Couldn't I just throw on this trench coat, fire this big gun, and punch people with my huge red stone hand? That's right. The Hellboy himself was supposed to be the leader of the apocalypse, the Antichrist, but instead he just wanted to go, son of a, before punching Cthulhu in the face. I have, for a October treat, been rereading Hellboy, and it's so fun. He's so cool. So he's going to be my pick. He may be like, I don't want to be involved with all these other demons. Well, too bad, Hellboy. Too bad. He's gruff, rough, and tough. But I think I'm going to need somebody who is like a little smoother. Somebody who is could do a little bit of the talking for me. Someone who could possibly say detective. I'm going to go with Lucifer from the hit show Lucifer. Decides he doesn't want to be in hell anymore. Instead, he wants to be in the next worst place, Los Angeles. Am I right?
Oh.
And play in his piano bar. I'm going with the man himself, Lucifer.
What I like about this pick, Greg, with this the second pick is that both of his hands are the same size. I appreciate that.
Well, yeah, he's got to play the piano, right?
Yeah. Hellboy destroys the bass part of every piano.
So I got Lucifer and Hellboy. I feel like I've got the king of punching, and then also the guy who's going to do a little bit of sweet talking, get us out of problems. Mike, put a ham in it, Mike.
Mike, settle the fuck down.
Yeah,
bro.
dude, calm down. Ryan, it's back to you. Who else you got?
With Chernobog at my back, I will bring up my front. And that's not your mama. It's not your mamu. It's Dormammu. Doctor Strange's longtime rival and a fire-headed demon.
And just an all-around bad guy.
Just such a fucking piece of shit, I'm going to say. I got to say. Just an awful, awful person.
We hate him.
He's from hell. He does magic, and people don't like him.
Now, this is like one of like a couple of different big Marvel demons, right? Because there's also, what's the big one? Mephisto?
I'm skipping over one big baddie who I don't like for a couple reasons. One, his font when he speaks in comic books is too hard to read.
Yeah, dude.
Let's skip over these parts.
Yeah, I'm sure he's not saying anything interesting.
But yeah, over I don't know, the last couple of years, Dormammu has become more interesting to me. Has become more three-dimensional in comic books and video games, believe it or not. And so I'm going with this guy.
Nice.
Does he have a snap card, Mike?
Not yet. And he has an adorable young son in Strange Academy.
Yes, he does.
I love that.
Dilton or Dalton?
Dalton Doily or something. It's something so goofy.
So comic booky.
But he's a little kid with the Dormammu head, just hanging out with other little kids.
Oh my gosh. Very good. I like that pick. Mike, who is your last pick of the second round?
I'm going to go. I want a, you don't want too many generals in the kitchen. Nothing will get cooked. So I want a good lieutenant who's going to go and fuck shit up, and I want Gozer. They can possess people. They can turn into evil, creepy dog things. Maybe give them belly rubs in between battles.
My wife and I were talking about whether or not Gozer is a devil or a demon. He's more than just a spirit. He's an actual demon.
I think Gozer's an interdimensional demon.
I'm an international demon.
That's why you should vote for me this November. Now, turn into or has control of? Is she in charge of...
There's Zool and
Yeah.
there's Gozer. They are different names.
One's the gatekeeper and one's the key master.
Of course. So
we should
I'm
definitely not get these two together.
I'm taking Gozer the gatekeeper.
Gozer the Gozerian.
Yes.
Okay. From
As you
Ghostbusters, we should say.
Oh, did we not say that?
Well, I love it. So, Mike, you have the Darkness and Gozer. Ryan, you have Chernobog and Dormammu, which is like, you got the names covered, man. And I have Hellboy and Lucifer. I gotta give it to Mike for round one. Mike's team so far is taking it down. The Darkness and Gozer. When we return back to the movie, with commentary on being a single mother, being an actress, the medical establishment, the Catholic Church, archaeology, attic maintenance. Is this movie trying to say and be about too many things and then ultimately not really getting there with any one of them? I mean, you could also add puberty onto the list. You could. This movie is
a big one, Greg.
What'd you say?
I'd say that's a big one, Greg.
Yeah, right. I felt like watching this movie, it's trying to take a bite of so many different apples that I feel like it never quite gets there with exactly what it wants to be about or takes enough time to say what it's trying to say about any subject. Do you guys agree or disagree with that?
You guys are never going to believe this, but because we watched this movie for this podcast, I love it. Straight up. Unless it's fucking Robin Hood, specifically the Disney one, and not Prince of Thieves, a movie that I love because we watched it for this podcast. I loved it. And so I totally get where you're coming from. And I think I sort of think that this question is because the three of us wanted to talk about so many things, like how do we do it all?
Mm-hmm.
Watching this movie, I think that we used to be a country, we used to be a society, and we used to make good movies. And this is how movies used to work. So instead of making movies for children, like we do now, where we have nothing to say and nothing to talk about, we used to make interesting choices, and we used to have so much to say because we were making choices and scenes. Now we have to make everything banal and stupid and vanilla. I think that this movie is about clearly puberty, but also so many other things if you want it to be. I don't see this as about too much. I think this movie is about whatever you take from it if you do. I think that there's a good chance that 75% of this audience takes nothing about the protesting movie that Chris is making.
Right.
That like just does not glom onto that at all.
The Disney version of the Ho Chi Minh story, I believe it's referred to as.
And like William Friedkin is totally fine with that. But I just think that there's so much interesting in this movie that like it doesn't appear to me as too much.
Well, what do you think he's saying? Because when we first meet Burston, she is doing a scene and saying, like, we all care about human rights, but don't we need to talk to each other or something lame?
I mean, it feels like she's making an anti-protest movie. Like she's like it. I took it to be a sign that she is an older actress.
Yes,
in the movie,
she's in like the Disney Channel Hallmark movie part of her career,
telling everybody to calm down, not care about the things they care about so hard.
Right.
That's kind of what it feels like. Like maybe don't get involved, everybody. Tune back in. Drop back in. Pay more attention. The most compelling part, I thought, was the comparisons between the medical establishment, which kind of continually just like scratches its head and goes, I don't know. Have you tried shaking the shit out of her? I don't know. Have you tried grabbing her by the ankles and dunking her in something? And the idea of like that the cure is so much worse than the disease with the medical establishment. And I like versus how the possession is kind of the same thing. Like the possession and the exorcism is also like she's getting so messed up physically by both the demon being in her, but then also by the cure, which is driving the demon out. So I felt like that was very interesting, but I felt like the movie like was also trying to say all of these different things that it doesn't really like lean on that enough or finish whatever its point is about it.
to tie those two things together, the bullshit movie Burskins in the beginning, and then the cure is just as bad as the disease. Nobody wins because everybody dies, and the demon calls it like, "Hey, no, I wanted to bring us together," and the guy's like, "You and Reagan," and demon's like, "No,
Yeah.
me and the two of you." It's the war is ending. I'm so bad at geography and history.
Geography
But
of time.
The war is ending. People are dealing with it, right? And nobody won. And I do think it's dealing with that. Like, so that's why that's that movie in the beginning. We're talking about those things, and then at the end, it's like, no, we're all gonna die here. And Reagan made it out, quote unquote, but took a bunch of people with her, and also is clearly going to be traumatized because even though the mom's like, she doesn't remember anything, the way she looks at the priest at the end, she remembers everything.
Yeah, is the end of this movie a little pat? That's another thing
Yeah,
that I
Mom-
thought was like kind of quickly done was the ending.
The mom sneaks over to the one father that made it out, and she's like, "Oh, just so you know, she doesn't remember anything. Just like, hey, audience, everyone can leave. Everybody's okay. Just so
it's
you know."
over. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But part of like what I was questioning about it in the movie in terms of what its messages are, how does Father Karras, how does he know, and is he right that the thing to do is somehow get the demon to go into him and then for him to jump out the window? And now, as Hamlet says, the canon is fixed against self-slaughter. So how is it that he knows that the right thing to do is to kill himself while the demon's inside him? That might have been the exact thing that the demon wanted him to do, right?
Not his problem now, though.
Like, usually in a movie, and maybe I'm being simple in a way that I wouldn't be about other movies, but normally there'd be like I feel like there should be like some filmic clues that what has to happen is he has to take the evil into himself and then sacrifice himself. But instead of giving us that, we just watch it happen, and then we are like, I hope that is what had to happen.
It's a good point because I do think that Catholics or religious people don't watch this as a horror movie, but instead it's like they're Rudy. You know, like this is their sport. Like they go in and they're like, Catholics, and like the Catholics beat.
Rudy is also that for Catholics, I should mention.
Because it's Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Like they beat their bad guy, but also possessed Reagan at one point says, "I'm not here for Reagan. I'm here for you, you little bitch. Like
Yeah.
I'm gonna get you." And then finally takes over Karras, and Karras figures out, oh, all I have to do is jump out this window, and then still get read my last rites. Like his fingers are moving at the end. He doesn't die when he hits the bottom of the stairs. Right?
Yeah, he's doing a little air guitar like, I won. I think why as I've said, I'm on Team Greg here, and I don't think it's a perfect movie, but why that worked for me is like because he's the faithless priest, and so doing at the end, like he's won his faith back, and it's not just, well, I saw a demon, so of course I believe now. It's innately he kind of knows what to do, and he's sacrificing himself.
I do love the idea that like his faith isn't restored by God. His faith is restored by the devil.
Yes.
Like,
and
I
that like his faith is. That's what I was gonna say. Is that like his faith is not come back? Is like his faith is like now it will never be fucking restored again. Now I doubly don't believe.
Oh, you
Now-
think he ends the movie doubly not believing?
Like I was like I don't or it's I lost my faith in God and now fucking God. Now it's like for God to do any of this, I fucking hate God. That's what I think the point of the movie is. So like. Not the point, but like that's Karras' final thing is that I'm going to end it going from father to lost faith to fuck God. I'm going to jump out this window knowing that there is a God and he is a piece of shit.
Oh, that's definitely not how I took the ending.
To make all of this happen, he is awful.
What in the movie makes you think that about him though?
That he like because he thinks that there is nothing. He goes from like I believe that he goes from Catholic to agnostic or God forbid, somebody forbid, atheist, and then sees that like all of this did happen and that now he is like, okay, so this person is actually letting all of this happen. If there is a devil, there must be a God, and then does whatever he can to save this one girl, knowing that why be on this planet anymore. So
I took the whole like taking the demon into himself, sacrificing himself, getting the last rites, still having that Christopher medal. I took all of that to be that like his faith had been ultimately completely restored, and you have the exact opposite inclination about it. What was your inclination about it, Mike?
I thought restored. Yeah, I thought that was his. Like, he went back in, I guess after he's sitting there like shell-shocked, and he goes back and he's like, nah, I gotta do it. And yeah, it felt to me in the, like, maybe there's scenes I wasn't missing, but he still had the medallion on. There's just nothing to me that says he lost his faith even harder.
Yeah, me neither, I guess. And that's why I don't need movies to spell things out for me, but I just have a hard time building a case one way or another for what he did. I mean, I still think Mike and I have the right of it, that it has to do with like some sort of return to faith, that he accepts God at the end, and that's why he has the last rites and everything. But I just wish there was more to kind of point us in one direction or the other. The last thing I want to talk about in relation,
we wouldn't have this conversation.
That's true. The last thing I want to talk about in relation to this is, I feel like this movie was doing a lot extremely subtly with like how people are tormented by their sexuality, and I wished the movie would talk more about characters who were not the little girl Regan, who were clearly dealing with sexual issues. Like, I feel like there's a few people who might have sexual hangups in this, but the movie kind of doesn't lean into that as much. What do you think this movie is saying about sex and sexuality?
I think the big one, and it is dealing with Reagan, is that people do not like dealing with young women becoming women and owning their sexuality. Obviously, there's violent, horrific things, and you can argue whether it is or is not her choice, but I think it's impossible to talk about. The way the mom at one point is like, that I don't know who that is, but that demon up there is not my daughter who wants to just masturbate and speak with that potty mouth. Like, it's about growing up.
Yeah, and I've heard so many arguments for this movie that it is pro female sexuality, and it's like it's hard to make that argument, I think, based on the like what I've read and like what we were like taught in the classes that I've taken about how but like she does get to freely masturbate, and she masturbates in front of her mom, and like these are
we all want to,
like we all like, this is tough stuff. It is true, but this feels like a bunch of dudes being repressed, right? Like,
yes. And I think that's why the demon is constantly telling the priests where to stick their cocks. I think that's very specific. She's always telling priests, stick your cock up her ass, stick your cock up his ass, up each other's pee holes. Like, that demon wants everybody to fuck, and I think it's very much teasing the priests, that they cannot.
Everybody should have stopped and been like, demon, do you just want to party? And he would have been like, hell yeah. Spuds McKenzie comes out.
Oh, my God.
Buster Poindexter comes in. Me feeling hot.
When we come back, let's draft the rest of our demon army. Let's get demonic. All right, Mike, it is back to you. Who is your third round pick for Team Mike?
Sometimes you need the first demon on the front lines to like go and weaken things, a real shit kicker, if you will. And that's why I'm going to take the Golgothan shit demon from Dogma. It is a demon made up of all of the fecal matter and ooze and bile from everybody who is killed on Golgotha Hill in the biblical mythology.
Now, is this a shit demon or a shit golem? Golem, excuse me.
In the movie, they say shit demon.
Shit demon? Okay, then I am forced to accept it.
And he has little shit antennae that move around. That's very silly.
Definitely, you will have the stinkiest combatant. Do you think he's got good offensive weapons besides that?
Yeah, more than just the smell that distracts people. I think he's very bulky and hulky and strong. And
he's certainly bulky. He's a dude in a big rubber suit, so he looks like the worst kaiju of all time.
Well, yeah. Can you imagine a kaiju made of poop? That's too much.
Can you even imagine?
Shit demon. Now, of course, we know that is what happens when you flush too many of those wipes and too much bacon grease down your drains. You get those huge shit demons. Ryan, Who can counter the shit demon?
I am a scotch nervous about my leadership, but with my Dormammu and my Chernobog. And so I am going to go with who will probably be my leader. And I'm going to go with somebody who is so cleverly named by some of the greatest screenwriters in Hollywood history. I'm going to go with lawyer John Milton, as played by Al Pacino himself in the film The Devil's Advocate.
Oh. Yes. Al Pacino, like in a movie that really highlights how tiny he is, which I think is so interesting because his devil is little bitty devil guy. Don't worry about me. I'm just a little guy. But so smooth. Some of that over the top Al Pacino action. And you have him as like the leader, right, Ryan?
I think so, yeah.
He is, as in terms of devils go, he is the least interventionist devil that we have, though. His whole thing is like he also believes in free will in Devil's Advocate. So he's going to be doing a lot of tempting people. I love it. All right. So Pacino.
It's just that if you guys fight against Chernobog or Dormammu, he will sue the shit out of you and he will win. So maybe in this battle, let my team win.
His whole speech is that like the lawyerification of the world will make it so awful that everyone will just turn to the devil.
Is he wrong?
I don't think he's wrong at all, Ryan. All right, so I think I need a little bit more leadership myself, because honestly, you would think Lucifer would provide that leadership, but from Lucifer, he like very much doesn't want to be in charge. And then Hellboy, again, like he is like purposely not being in charge. And so I'm going to go with a character from perhaps one of the freakiest things of all time, which is the Hereditary Wikipedia page. From the terrifying Hereditary Wikipedia page, the demon Paimon, who is King Paimon, the king of hell, and also loves bright, flashy lights. So, like, when there was that gout of fire suddenly up in the attic, I was like, oof, that's a clear Paimon sign. Also, the Hereditary Wiki has several scary parts in attics. He's probably from the scariest movie that we have even mentioned tonight. Or the Wikipedia, because that's what I'm going with. Guys, do you think that Paimon is a good pick for me?
I think he's a good pick for you.
I think he's the second best pick of this round. Does he also love old nude people?
Well, old nude people love him.
It's weird because according to the Hereditary Wikipedia, he's not actually that keen to be manifest on Earth, but this cult of his really is keen to make him manifest on Earth. So like he keeps getting trapped in the wrong bodies, and they finally like line it up so that he's in the right body. But he's like, oh, I'm back here. Instead of being a demon, I'm a dude now. I'm this guy who just threw himself out a window. Cool, good for me.
When people are manifesting, they never ask the people that they're manifesting, do you want to be manifested?
Oh yeah. Hereditary Wikipedia is a lot about other people making choices for you and how like there's nothing that you can really do about that, whether it be another generation or there's just people around you all the time. You don't even know how they interact with your life, but they're making big choices for you.
Do you smell a new Pop Filter podcast called Hereditary Wikipedia?
Yeah, and we just are going to review sentence by sentence every week.
It's very spooky. It's very spooky. And then last for my team, I've got a little bit of the salt. I'm going to need a little bit of that sugar, and no one brings more sugar than there are many incarnations of the devil on The Simpsons. But the one that will always be closest to my heart is when the devil is portrayed as Flanders himself, trying to trap Homer's soul by feeding him, selling him a donut for his soul, and then Homer tries to just not eat the last little bit. But wouldn't you know it, his appetites get the better of him, and he ends up eating it. Unfortunately for the devil Flanders, his soul already belongs to Marge, who he loves with all his heart and soul.
Which Marge has to regret instantly. Like, Marge has argued for Homer's soul so many times, but the perfect line in a perfect segment goes to Lionel Hutz, who's like, what his definition of a contract It's like,
And what is it, Ryan?
You sign on this line, and it means that it's like non-negotiable, and then realizes that he won the case for the other side, and then just runs out of the room and climbs out of the bathroom window.
Ryan, it's back to you for your last pick. Who is going to finish up your demon army?
Nobody picked the greatest of all time, the GOAT. So I'm taking Black Phillip,
Nice.
the GOAT.
Just for that build up. I love it.
Is that from the Vivitch?
That's the Vivitch.
Hell yeah. That's is that the goat that says, "Wouldst thou like to live deliciously?"
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Just somebody
Which totally sounds like a Taco Bell ad, but it's actually a line from the Vivitch.
Hey, after the Chihuahua and fourth dinner, here's our new ad campaign.
Live deliciously.
It just is that goat still saying it for Taco
Would
Bell.
thou like to live deliciously? It's so scary, and again, one of those turn up slowly throughout the movie until this goat is the freakiest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I love it.
I love that movie.
And Mike, bring this pandemonium to a close.
I'm thinking about my army, and I want more front lines, and think about the powers of demons and how we all need to think outside the box a little more. Many are one is many. Deadites are a demon. These are the Deadites. They work for the Kandarian demon, which is their ruler, but the Deadites are all one thing. They're not zombies. They're their own thing. It's from the Evil Dead. It's they can make plants fuck you. They can make your best friends and siblings come back and talk to you and say you're a little piece of shit. So you got psychological warfare and physical warfare. Deadites are scary and rule.
Doesn't it sound like Ash started a doo-wop band and this is his backup singers?
Ash and the Deadites.
And the Deadites. And so they're like a big collective organism?
Yeah, they'll do the we're all talking at once many voice thing, or they'll talk individually in different bodies, but they're a shared collective consciousness.
That's spooky as heck. Okay, so Mike, you've got the darkness, Gozer, those Deadites, and who was your other pick?
The Gogothan shit demon.
The shit demon. Okay, so that's your team. Ryan, you have Chernobog, Dormammu, the Vivitch guy, and then
Phillip.
who was Black Phillip, and then who was your third pick?
John Milton from Devil's Advocate.
Oh yeah, man, you've got like a few different bases covered, and then I've got Hellboy, Lucifer, Payman, and the Devil Flanders. So Ryan, what's your strategy gonna be here?
I'm gonna throw a Fantasia demon, a Marvel demon, and a goat demon at you, and if anybody touches any of my people, I'm gonna sue the fucking shit out of you.
Mike, what's your strategy gonna be?
I'm gonna weaken you all up with first wave of Deadites and Gozer. Gozer goes and finds like any weak points he gets in there. Deadites mess you up, and then Gogothan shit demon comes in. Stinks you up, messes you up more, and darkness wins all the power.
I'm going to send in Hellboy as my frontline fighter, and then try to find one of your guys to possess with Payman, and then distract with the lovely piano strains of Lucifer, while Devil Flanders tries to tie up specifically John Milton. Wait, that's really that guy's name from that movie?
It is. It is. One screenwriter read one book one time.
I love it. We did not pick the most important devil character of all time, which is Lucifer from Paradise Lost. Hey, good for us. Good for us we avoided that one. I'm going to give the points to Ryan. I think your team, Ryan, has what it takes. 3 points to you, the king of the pandemonium.
Can I do a couple of HMs?
Sure.
I didn't know if Cthulhu counted.
That's hard. He's like, I don't know. I don't think he's strictly a demon. I
Is
think
he a
he's
space alien?
It's like an elder
yeah, he's like a
being or something.
multi-dimensional being. He's like from another plane of existence that we can't comprehend. So probably kind of a demon, I guess.
There was a Brendan Fraser movie with Elizabeth Hurley as the devil. I
I would sell my soul.
Yeah. South Park Devil. Up there where flowers.
Yeah,
grow.
dude. If we had done this 20 years ago, South Park Devil for sure.
I thought that Pazuzu might get mentioned. I didn't know that Pazuzu's name was never mentioned in the movie until tonight.
Isn't
That's
that
Yeah.
messed up?
that's fucking crazy.
It must be from the
Wise-
sequels, right?
I think so. And
And
the novel, probably.
Slender Man was something that we missed out on because we're too old for that time of the internet. But I think that he's a demon.
Well, there you go. Slenderman. A demon. When we come back, our final question of the evening, followed by several more questions. At the center of The Exorcist are two women going through a rough time. But is the film decidedly feminist or is it misogynistic? Can it be both? Make an argument for one or the other now.
Why I
No.
don't think it's... Oh, can we just opt out? I abstain.
I mean, can we make an argument for a feminist movie directed by a man? So it's both at the same time.
Joss Whedon did it.
I'm
So
like, never say that.
should I look up what he's been up to in the last... I think because Burstyn is up against it and everybody, all these men in positions of authority are telling her she's wrong and no, and she is right, is why men are shown to be kind of fools in this movie over and over and over again. And so I think, ladies, they're doing it for themselves, and I think it leans more feminist than misogynist.
I mean, priests are called in, and they're literally called fathers. But one of the first things they do, the doctors are insane.
Yes.
It reminded me a little bit of a movie I saw recently. I don't know if you guys have caught it, called Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon.
I have not seen it.
Where doctors are not only quacks, but terrible at their job and evil and trying to get everything they can from the Osage tribe. But do you guys remember back 7 years ago where you had some trust in doctors but not a bunch? This is what this movie reminded me of. But then when the pandemic happened, you were like, oh, I have full faith in doctors no matter what, because the alternative was to be like, oh, if I don't have full faith in doctors, I sound Republican.
Right.
That's what this movie made me think of. It's like, I used to not be so faithful in doctors. The doctors sound crazy. It brought back all of those articles I've read about how when women walk into doctors' offices, they're just not believed.
Mm-hmm.
You don't, whatever problems you're having, you just don't have them.
You're a woman, so you don't understand what your body's doing. I don't think
If I
so.
can't find it on the scan, it's not a real thing.
So many times, but then the opposite. They're like, there's nothing wrong with her brain according to the scans. Should we scan her again?
Do another one. Just pop off another scan real
Should
quick.
shove another
another
needle in
scan.
this child's neck?
It's a particular problem with black women, just that you are not believed. You have hysteria. I think that you have something that happened in the 1890s and the 2020s. This is a huge problem. But also the first thing that the fathers say to Chris when they come over and see Reagan is, where is her father? You need to call her father right now. Her deadbeat dad, who is not talked about in the movie at all.
I think
you need to
fucking
call
his way
her
through
dad
Europe.
right now.
He's literally in Rome, which feels like there's an opening there to do something because it's that's also where the Pope is, but it just feels like a happenstance. It doesn't feel like the movie's trying to do anything.
Brain cannon. Her dad is the Pope. That's why she gets possessed.
Here's why, to me, it seemed a little anti-feminist. When we start the movie up, she is an actress, and the mom is an actress, and the domestic duties that she has, or that are in the house, are taken care of by staff. And she is primarily a worker, and there's no husband. And then by the end of the movie, it feels like a lot of that has been stripped away from her and that she has been pushed back kind of into the role of just mother. The action of the movie takes away her job, takes away some of the help, and basically renders her just the mother. That becomes the only thing that really seems to matter to her. And that it just seems like there's something a little anti-feminist about that it feels like maybe in the beginning it's well, in these modern crazy times, women are hardly even mothering, and maybe there'll be some sort of disaster that makes it so that they have to return to those roots. Am I just projecting there?
Not really, and not to be too judgy, but I'm going to say she does not have the best taste in men because we are made to believe. I trust Reagan when she says that she and Burke do have a thing, and Burke is the most classical, drunk British fool of all time. Like, when people hear that Burke, the director of the film she's working on, fell down the stairs and died, everybody's like, yeah, that...
Classic
makes
Burke.
sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
I have a weird question. So, the, nanny is there, and Burke comes over. And Burke is this drunk director who, is the kind of the boss of the mom of the family. And the nanny's like, I gotta run out to get some medicine. Do me a favor, would you? Would you stay here and be in charge of the sleeping 12-year-old girl upstairs? And then it's like, okay. And then we don't see this happen, but Burke somehow ends up in the room of the drugged up. She's not just sleeping at this point. She's completely drugged up. 12-year-old girl. And then somehow Burke gets thrown out the window. Hey,
Yeah.
Burke, what were you doing in the room, bud?
I was wondering if that was giving a freaking middle finger to people like Polanski.
Yeah, if he's just roaming Polanski around the house. And so, but then again, I expected the movie
to deal with that.
to kind of maybe do and I just felt like it's set out there. It's there for you if you want it. If you also want to construct a narrative where he's just Mr. Beaning around the house and then he hears a loud noise come from upstairs and then he goes up there, that's okay too.
He's just looking for the butler to make more Nazi jokes at him because he happens to be Swiss.
I'm
What
Swiss,
the
you
fuck was that?
bastard.
I mean, you want to talk about too many themes in this movie. That scene was just if we want to cut something...
I focused
Yeah.
for way too long on that. I'm like, what does it mean? Is there Nazi stuff throughout this movie? No, there's not. Don't worry about that scene, guys.
If I'm Burke and I'm Mr. Beaning through the house, I'm finding a giant turkey and I'm putting it right on my head.
Of course.
And then
That's
putting
what I'm
glasses on that turkey's head and then shaking your little tatas.
But no, yeah,
And then-
Burke went upstairs for one reason.
Right? And so then that was part of when I was talking about people's weird sexualities earlier, is I was wondering if that is supposed to be he was going up there with bad purposes, and then it's almost like his death then doesn't hurt the audience as much, the way that sometimes before someone dies in a movie, especially a horror movie, they'll be like, okay, check out this guy. He's racist. All right? We've established that he's racist. Okay, now the killer is killing him. And so we're less upset.
Mm-hmm.
But it's left for us to just decide what happened to Burke. And maybe that's interesting in a way, but it feels like, don't you, as the creative force in the movie, want to tell us, give us some idea about what happened there? But I guess no.
I mean, no, and we can't comment on what's not there, right? We don't. It's just not there, so we don't know. But
not showing us something is a choice, and so I think we can examine that choice.
Reagan doesn't kill a lot of people that aren't trying to kill the demon inside of her.
Yeah.
And so either Burke went up there to kill the demon inside of her or something else.
Right? Yeah. End of story. How about just focusing on Reagan? Is her story feminist or anti-feminist in any way, or just neither because she's a child more than anything else?
I think that's why the argument that it is about people, the argument I made earlier, that it is about people being uncomfortable with young women's sexuality and them owning it, becomes harder when you're like, well, it's a different entity is coercing her and took her over and forcing her to do things. That kind of takes any feminist message out of that.
Yeah, because then she's not the one controlling it anymore. I mean, she is primarily, is the bad guy and is primarily the bad guy's main victim.
Right.
Victim, right.
And so she occupies both those roles at the same time.
And it's not like Reagan is a full-grown woman in the denouement or whatever that thing is at the end that we see where everything is happy and Reagan doesn't matter or doesn't remember, rather.
Which just feels so fake. As someone watching it, you're like, there's no...
And I'm going to kiss you on the cheek, Father, and sort of let you know that I do, but I don't, but I do remember.
That was her thanking him or
Right.
apologizing for killing his friends or something. I don't know what it was.
But that guy didn't do anything. And that guy, that character, I think, although very minor, deserves a whole other segment this third priest that's in the movie, but
who's a big fan of musicals and
Right.
is extremely close to
Father Karras, and
Yeah.
really looks at him in a different way than any other character
and
does.
is like, it's always upsetting to see your friend die, but is like, I don't know, there just seems to be a different energy between the two of them, and I wondered
Yes.
if like there
He's
is some
absolutely in love with Father Karras.
Yeah, right. And so then that's another interesting idea that I wish the movie had explored a little bit more, rather than give us this hint that that's what's going on, and then not do a ton with it.
But yeah, see, I think that like I love all of these seeds that are planted that are not sowed, I guess, or explored. Harvested.
I just wish they would say a little bit more about some of them. But you know what that sound means. We have to move to our speed round now. Despite its easy to replicate premise, there has never been another good entry in this franchise. It's 146. Why is that, do you think?
I think that they take the iconic stuff, the head turning around, the pea soup, and they don't take the slow moments, the character moments. Like that's what makes this movie.
I bet a real filmmaker has not been behind the helm of any of these sequels. Sorry to all the people who did the sequels, but
I mean, Mike just called you out hardcore.
but there's
yeah.
no William Friedkin types out there who
William Friedkin.
Is this kind of from the point of after the first one, were they just banking so much on the name Exorcist they didn't really care?
I
and
mean,
they just like put anything out that they could?
this last one that came out, Mike, did you watch it?
No.
They were trying to do like all right, so Halloween was a big deal.
Right.
Got Jamie Lee Curtis back. We'll get Ellen Burstyn back. And I heard that what's Reagan's name?
Linda Blair
back in a cameo, and it was supposed to be terrible. It was a huge flop. They paid like $400 million for that, just the rights to get it back, and that doesn't even include like the budget. So nobody cares about the franchise as a franchise. They might care about this movie, but they're missing the point of like what makes this movie so cold and chilling to the veins.
Yeah.
With black masses and Ouija boards and conjuring the devil, can we hold it against this movie at all that it might have helped usher in the satanic panic of the 80s?
Look, people at the time were champing at the bit to be scared of fucking something. And so that's what it is. Both Reagan brought us Reagan, and then he brought us, let's be scared of bullshit.
I grew up in the satanic panic and the like child molestation craze of the 80s, and it turned out that it was all family members
And priests.
and priests. Like it was all just people doing it to their own family members. Like it was not a panic at all.
I mean, that's always what it is. Like that's where sexual abuse happens. It really does not often happen between a stranger who works at your daycare and you. Not that it never has, but like all of those people, like those stories were just completely debunked.
And that's where it happened in the 70s, and the 60s, and the 50s, and the 40s. It's always been the family members and or the priests.
Is this movie just about owning a cat? The constant vomiting, the going from cute and docile to trying to fuck up things 10 times their size. I don't know. It feels like this might be about cats. What do you guys think?
I think so.
Do you need to exercise your cat? Does your cat need more exercise?
My cat probably could use a little bit more exercise, but she doesn't want to do it. So I have one of those cats who would like, if I put her on the treadmill, she would just like lie down and then cry. Don't make me do it.
That's what I do when I'm on a treadmill.
Knowing what we know now, does this movie miss an opportunity to take a couple more swings at the Catholic Church?
Yeah. For the most, they're just like out of touch. They're like, yeah, this stuff that doesn't exist, we don't even want to do anymore. But yeah, it's that is of the numerous things on its mind. It's taking truth to power that is actually corrupt and gross and evil. It doesn't care about. It doesn't want to do that.
In what 7 years, 10 years, we get The Verdict, and then in 25 years after that, we get Spotlight. Do you guys think in 1973 it was scary? Like that's the true scare is to take it to the Catholic Church? Like, do you guys think that like you would have got burned down?
Probably. People would have. Yeah, I think he would have never worked in this town again.
Yeah, I guess that question is kind of informed by a lot of years of things coming out, and so maybe because they still had the wraps on it so effectively.
But there's still, I mean, to this day, there's people that are like, we really want to protect the children. I hate drag queen library readings, and I'll never say a single thing about the Catholic Church.
And I felt the same thing about the Satanic Panic, Ryan, because I feel like that was like something that we were able to experience as younger people, and then like watch the backlash and watch the fallout of it. And yet with QAnon and like adjacent right-wing conspiracy theories, it seems like they're all just trumped up versions of, or like kind of like retrofitted versions of the Satanic Panic.
Do you know what per capita, okay, so not like a billion, but per capita, like what has like the most rampant sexual molestation and aggression in it is the Police Explorers program.
Yeah,
Kids
I've heard
go
that.
to work with police. Yeah, so work on that instead of the drag queen library readings if you care about the children.
Where nothing bad except for you has ever happened. When we come back, we're going to give this movie some awards and a recommendation. Awards. This movie was celebrated in its own time and was nominated for, Ryan, how many was it? 10?
10. All of the biggies.
It won 2. Which 2 did it win, Ryan?
We got adapted screenplay by the author of the book, and then sound, which I think was legit. Like,
yeah, dude.
This movie sounded great.
Capital L legit. Yeah, the sound was not a problem. I mean, they had like her voice overdubbed, and it was like perfect. And
allegedly, she lost Best Supporting Actress because they figured out that an old school actress, who I should have her name up here, did her voice. Like an 80-year-old actress dubbed her voice in over Linda Blair's.
And purposely destroyed her voice so that it would sound really bad.
Smoked even more cigarettes than she normally did and gargled eggs.
And relapsed from her addiction to alcohol
yes.
because she thought that whiskey would make her voice sound even worse.
And to me, I was like, you guys thought that was Linda Blair? You thought that was 12-year-old Linda Blair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when you found
that's how well it's done.
When you found out that it wasn't, you were like, well, then she does not get the award.
Yeah, that's definitely, I'm angry you tricked me.
So it's going home with a slew of Moody's tonight. Pound for pound performance. Mike, who do you give it to?
I think just so overwhelmed and I think Ellen Burstyn rules. I think she plays every emotion, even when it's big, she hits big in a realistic way over like a hammy melodramatic way. Like I think she just crushes.
Her like the way she looks in the mornings, I was more impressed with than the way she looks at the scary scenes at night. The like I haven't been sleeping. I love how much this movie is, it reminded me of Poltergeist in that it's not just dealing with the acute, like we got spookies, but also it's like we also have to just live our lives. And so like we're really tired in the morning because we're being haunted by stuff.
Which is the only thing that makes me tired in the morning. Guys, this is a like inch for inch remake of, or Poltergeist is a remake of Exorcist. Like, it just moves it to the suburbs, but like my daughter is fucked up and we have to bring in professionals. Like you can put them side by side and it is the exact same thing.
And don't worry too much about the specifics. Mike, did we just do Mike's P for P? Yeah. Ryan, who do you think is P for P?
I have Linda Blair. I have, I just like what she went through is not supposed to be why I give it to her, but like, I think that her dedication to this part, just her constant, there's so many moments that like made me laugh, but like, I think in the way that the movie intended, there's a part where she has gotten out of her, restraints, and she's just leaning at the foot of the bed.
Yes, dude.
She's like, "Yo, what up, bitches?"
Yeah.
Pazuzu's here. Hello. But then like when Karis goes out of the window and Pazuzu's gone, and she throws herself to the corner, and she's just like, "Mommy, mommy, where are you?" And then bursts in. I just think like from the whole like and. I think it's a tie. I think that the key to the movie is the two of them together. Early on in the movie, where Burstyn has like really gotten out of all responsibility except for her relationship to her daughter, and they tackle each other like at the bottom of the stairs, and they're like tickling each other. Like it's almost unscripted. It's almost improvised. You know, I think it's so good.
Very close matchup there, but I am going to give it to Burstyn. I feel like this movie is recorded in our cultural memories as being about this little girl. It's so clearly when you watch it about this mom, and I think that Burstyn really carries that. You know, she's the one who's tormented more than anybody else by what's going on. Ryan, what is Friedkin's signature moment from this movie?
Okay, so we've talked a lot about how it's not that he doesn't care about the set pieces. I just think that he is doing them because they're necessary. But I do think that he's just coming off his Academy Award for The French Connection, which I think is a cop movie, chase movie like no other. Like one that's very grounded in being a drama about people, you know, like this is his thing. And so I picked what I think is one of the most horrifying scenes of the movie, which is Lee J. Cobb playing this like very strange, for the movie world, police detective comes over for coffee. And he's a movie fan, which is adds a level of strangeness. And they sit down, and he's trying to hide this, and he cares about this girl, and he's a little bit more leaning towards the fact that like there is supernatural stuff going on that he knows any of his fellow employees are. And they just sit there and they talk. And, like, this is sort of their swan song to the movie. Like, the two of them are not going to really do much in the movie. And they just sit there in, like, a lot of quiet. A lot of just, like, dealing with the situation the same way that the two of us are. And Friedkin makes us sit in it. And, like, they have a second cup of coffee. Like, usually in movies, you pour a cup, like, we have our drink, and you don't even touch it. You just let the drink sit there, and then you leave. But they drink their drink, and then we have a second drink, and we just sit there.
She clearly asks him if he wants another cup of coffee as a way of saying, well, guess you got to head on out of here.
Dude.
And when he accepts, you see her face fall so precipitously. His name is, that character's last name, Kinderman. Because he is a man-child. He is made young by his love of movies. In a movie all about adults and kids and that crossover there, the detective's name is Kinderman.
He asked the priest at the end to like go to a movie at the end, and he's like, who's in it? I don't know. Maybe I don't want to go. And he's like, well, fine, fuck you then. But the fact that they spent so much time towards the third act with these two, and my skin is crawling the entire time. That is Friedkin's moment.
All right. What do you say, Mike?
The thing that I noticed, and it happened a lot more in the first 2/3, was these sporadic inserts, a little longer than Brad Pitt putting dicks in movies in Fight Club.
The Pazuzu inserts?
But there's a Pazuzu insert, but there's also like zoom in on the attic door that's in the ceiling. But she's not going to go in that room until 5 more scenes. It's not soon. It's not like on this candle, the candle's not going to fly yet, but it's just like, I don't know, how do we build tension right now? Zoom in on random shit for a second, and we'll get back to that way later in the movie. It made me laugh. I don't get why it happened, but that made me be like, that's a director doing something.
I'm a little surprised neither of you went with the iconic image of Max von Sydow standing outside like when he shows up to do the exorcism. But I'm going to give that one to Ryan. This is not, I think when you think of this movie, that the first thing you think of is not cringing. Are there any moments in this movie that would lead one to cringe, Mike?
Lead me to cringe. It was the cerebral angiography, which is the needles in the neck and all that. And then just that whole sequence, and then the MRI is so loud. All of it, and it's just showing the medical system not helping this girl, but traumatizing her doubly so.
I love how the point of this movie, clearly one of the major points of this movie, is that the medical establishment is as scary as demons and as scary as like being. And I love that when people talk about passing out in this movie, like with viewers passing out, it's the medical scenes. And I just think that's so perfect. Like that's the biggest compliment to Friedkin that there could be, that like, it's not the stuff where she's possessed and being weird. It's just the medical stuff that goes on every day in real life the way horror movies like accentuate real life horror is what keeps them from being fun for me, but makes them definitely more interesting. So I love that. Ryan, how about you? When were you cringing?
I jumped into this movie knowing that it's a classic and it sort of lives in time, lives in amber, like so many mosquitoes that we get dinosaur DNA from. And then Linda Blair started jumping up and down on the bed, and like we could very clearly see her underwear. And then all of a sudden it hit that like this was a 12-year-old girl, and all of a sudden it flooded in like what she was asked to do, and I don't know. It got all of a sudden gross for me. You know, like that she did sign on, she did commit, but fuck, man, this.
And there's weird stories about her interactions with Friedkin too. Like, there's a story where he's like, "Do you understand what she's doing with the crucifix?"
Yeah.
And Linda Blair apparently is supposed to say she's jerking off,
It's
right?
like jerking off.
And man, yeah, like, yeah,
Oh,
I
like,
totally
you got the
agree.
job. Linda Blair's story does not turn out like Tatum O'Neal's, also from 1973. But just because you don't have the worst story from 1973 doesn't mean that it's a great story. I don't know. It just made me feel like shit.
Yeah, I agree with that. It hard to lose sight of that with everything else we've experienced with 73. Even if you don't hear the story, like even if there's not a lot of stories that exist, there's just an uncomfortable feeling. Recommendations. I'm going to go first here. If you want something that is scarier than The Exorcist, but still very much like dealing with the themes of The Exorcist, and exploring, I think some similar ideas, and obviously very much influenced by it. The Hereditary Wikipedia is full of scary moments. It has parts that will stick with you. It's got links to articles about Hereditary. I can't recommend highly enough checking out the Hereditary Wikipedia. I think it's got everything that this movie was going for and a little bit more. Obviously informed by it, sure. But yeah, it's one of the most impactful Wikipedias you can read out there.
As
Mike,
someone
what
who
do you
got their bachelor's and master's and doctorate and double doctorate and I think triple doctorate in English literature, is it the best book you've ever read?
It's right. It's definitely right up there. Definitely one of the scarier things I've ever read. I have heard, I don't know if this is true, but that they have optioned it to make a movie about it.
What?
So something to think about, something to check
I
out.
heard the first couple people who read the Hereditary Wikipedia puked because of how scary it was.
Yeah, dude, they got so scared. I just honestly like now when I look at Piano Wire, I'm like, oof. You could just picture what somebody could do with that.
You guys know in the 1890s, people went to a theater and the Hereditary Wikipedia page came at people on screens and everyone ran out of the theater?
Mike, what do you recommend?
Also very
intrepid
closely
viewers?
related, very, very inspired. The Last Exorcist, I think, does not get enough play. It was memory hold. Patrick Fabian, who was great in Better Call Saul, is the star of it as a kind of Harold Hill type huckster. He is a pastor, but he finds people who think their kids might be possessed and then adds like special effects.
Oh hell
to,
yeah!
Do things.
Yeah.
And it's a mockumentary style, and it starts off very funny, and he's so charming and shitty and faithless like Karras, and then he runs into he's dealing with a real one here. And this girl, Ashley Bell, plays Nell, and she is I forget who her parents are, but they're like two groundlings, so she's been around improvisers her whole life, and then so all of them were like, you all have lines. Ashley's gonna do whatever she wants, and them dealing with her going nuts and actually contorting her body in insane ways is dope. The last 5 minutes are stupid as hell, but the rest of the movie is dope.
Does he have like 1920s special effects? So it's like smoke bomb, fake poop, fake vomit?
Yeah, it really is like, he's like, ha ha ha, fishing line on my finger. But he's dealing with and it's interesting because he thinks these people who are looking to him for help, he's like, well, I'm in the backwoods of Arkansas or whatever. And he's making fun of them. And at first you're like, yeah, they are weird, and then you realize, no, this guy's a piece of shit. Like
that unfortunate actor, that unfortunate, very handsome, very rich actor, can only play pieces of shit.
Yeah, he has that kind of face.
Yeah.
Ryan, what do you recommend, Aish?
I have heard that this has been a terrible year for horror from multiple sources, and that might be because last year was so great. Last year had Barbarian, and last year was the Pearl and X.
X,
1-2
yeah.
punch. But this year had Evil Dead Rise, and as an Evil Dead 1 and 2 fan, and not the biggest Army of Darkness fan, but that's fine. That I expected Evil Dead Rise to be terrible, and I thought it was spectacular and full of demons and full of incredible set pieces. Mike, have you seen this?
Not yet.
Okay, so I will recommend it to you and to all of our listeners and to Greg.
It looked scary as shit, dude.
Yeah,
The
it really
preview
did.
made it look like way scarier than the original Evil Dead movies.
Greg is grabbing his keys and looking up his local Redbox right now to run out and go. Rent
I might have to cruise over to the old Wikipedia. If you dare.
It was fucking sweet. It was about somebody opens the goddamn. Is this the Necronomicon?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Open it up. Read a couple pages. The sister's like, "Hey, don't do that," and the brother's like, "Oh, what? What if I read another page? What if I read another page? Dare me to read a third page?" And then shit goes haywire in this apartment building that is about to be condemned and has no electricity.
Ooh,
Ah.
fun.
And then they rise. So many cool things. There's in the parking lot below the building. There is one of those trash trucks that has a grinder in it.
Yeah, there is.
Elevator. I love elevator work. Elevators are already so scary, and then to add a little bit more to that, guys, Evil Dead Rise.
Check it out. Well, those are our awards and our recommendations. When we come back, I'm going to tell you who won this show. We're going to say whether or not we think The Exorcist has what it takes to win the 1973 season. Ryan, you won 25-24, you old so-and-so. What possessed you to do so well?
Pazuzu.
Pazuzu. Hey, make it Pazuzu, will you?
Is that why on the breaks you kept calling me a cunting panelist, Ryan? Because Pazuzu was in you?
Yeah. He's been here the entire time.
I kind of felt like Pazuzu was a little bit like an internet troll. Just always trying to be upsetting and get under people's skin.
Do you know why he's not upsetting though? Is because anytime you look at the statue, and at the very end, instead of that weird face with like the makeup and the weird teeth, he just appears and he's got his hand up, like ready to like be in power with you. Like the actual statue is like, "Yo, what up, bro?"
Yeah, dude.
Solidarity.
Solidarity. Reading the tea leaves here, I feel like this movie, if it were the Ryan show starring Ryan and his two friends, other Ryans,
Wait,
this would
did you
have
read my pitch?
this would have a very strong chance. But Mike, you and I seem a little underwhelmed. I think this movie may not have much of a chance. What do you guys think?
My heart is still searching for the winner
Yeah.
of the 1973 season.
I think that you guys need to watch it again because, and I know that's never ever going to happen, but
For one of us.
I do think that these genre movies are too often graded on how good they are at their genre, and I just don't think that this is the classic horror movie in its sense. I think that like it's the outside of the set pieces. I think that this is nearly perfect.
Yeah, it's certainly super upsetting in a lot of different ways, all of which it's trying to be. And so you have to give it credit. Like, I think it bridges the gap between real world horror and horror movie horror so effectively as to like kind of erase the gap. And I do think that, you know, it's hard when I find a movie so distasteful I don't want to watch it again. It's hard to then say like, okay, well, my one time viewing it was, you know, the definitive verdict, but I feel in no way compelled to watch it again. There were a couple of different things, the thing with the crucifix, and then her mom, we didn't even talk about the fact that her mom bursts in right after that, and she just like grabs her mom by the head and forces her mom's head down.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
The reverse
whoa.
precious.
And her mom comes up like with a face full of blood because she's just been like stabbing herself. Like, wow, things you just cannot unsee, cinema. That's awesome.
So Greg has not been in Pornhub in like 7 years.
But yeah, so I guess I think that there's not much of a chance, fair or unfair. It didn't quite do it for me. And Mike, would you say it's fallen in your esteem, or do you have any sort of adjustment to your feelings about it?
Adjustment, but you know what it is? It's new dials have been added to how I feel about it. I agree. The outside of the set pieces have risen up because now I remember them.
Yeah.
And I could definitely see rewatching this one. Another 20 years is not going to go by before I watch it again. I think this movie's awesome. It's just like it did not serve what I was expected and told, and memory served, and pop culturally told it served. And so, but that is just always an interesting take to have to gnaw on.
When it's remembered culturally a little bit different than like when you watch the thing itself. Well, we still have a lot of great movies coming up in this season. Make sure you are checking those out. But until then, hey, do me a favor, would you? Keep watching them horror movies. Ooh, spooky. Happy Halloween!
Boom.